I kept a journal when I was in Vietnam, but you know, I didn't do anything heroic. I didn't go out and bayonet anybody or anything like that. I was mostly a desk guy or flying around doing chores. But I heard lots of stories. I saw lots of things, and so I kept a journal just to remind me of a few incidents, and then I built on those, and I wrote uh, a book about the Vietnam War.
We flew in the sky in
And I
green
sent it to an
machine.
agent in New York City, and he wrote me back and he said, you know, you're a good, very good writer, but I've read this story too many times. So what I want you to do is I want you to spread out, you know, what you're writing about, what you're thinking about, open up a little bit. Don't tell the same story everybody else is telling. It hurt me, and I went away, and I don't suppose I ever communicated with him again. I wish I had in a way. But he set me on thinking, okay, yeah, you're right. This is a story that everybody who's been in a war zone could tell in some form or the other. But then it was the 60s, early 70s. I wrote of that, got to Lethbridge, and that opened up my mind a lot. I was out of the Army, I was out of the United States, I felt free. And so all kinds of books were coming out, and all kinds of things were changing, and people were thinking differently and thinking they thought more freely. And so, for some reason or the other, there's many reasons. Lama came to live with us. I was studying Buddhism. I was doing a lot of hiking and climbing. You know, a lot of things were coming together in Lethbridge there that made me, I guess, perceive and understand and sense the world differently. I wasn't taking acid. I only ever took it once in my whole life. I wasn't smoking a lot of marijuana, though it was occasionally around. I wasn't using any other drugs or alcohol, but yet those things were influencing society, especially psychedelics. So, for whatever reason, uh, my study of Buddhism and meditation and so forth somehow opened up the way I thought about many different things. And so the story began to change. I had some dreams that were very powerful, and a lot of the Sunpipes stories built on real dreams that I had. It caused me to think, hmm, I'm operating at a bunch of different levels here, and I need to be more aware of that. And so this story then built from dreams to kind of not thinking about, but allowing to come through me the actual story that ended up being there. It came in choppy bits and pieces. It's not a nice smooth story. It's this place, this event, that experience. And then how does the reader or listener make sense of that is important. More complex story or question, I guess.
I'm going to pull back a bit, and then I'll ask another question because that's really good.
That's what you're after?
Well, it explains really nicely how, again, it's, in a succinct way, more so than on other conversations,
Uh-huh.
about how it came into being. But something you said strikes me, that, the question is really asking, what is it thematically about? And I think you might have alluded to it by describing how at the time you were being, you know, by a variety of circumstances, the war experience, what was going on in the 60s and 70s, the music and all that, everything we've talked about, you were being compelled or impelled or encouraged to open up and explore. Is that what this book is about?
It is, for sure. In fact, Ramon, the main character, undergoes complete transformation through the book. There are 5 books. This one is quite sufficient in and of itself to tell a story. But he evolves through this book and continues to evolve. And so for me, this book is about how each of us can evolve, but we have to find our own, I guess, foundation to stand on. This book it has a spiritual part, it has an emotional part, it has all kinds of adventure parts. It's got everything, I guess, there if you can relate to it. Perhaps you can't relate to it if you're not on a journey or a quest yourself. Or perhaps this book could take you on or start you on a quest. You could go on Ramon's quest and think, well, that was interesting, but my quest is even more interesting.
But the lesson being that being on quests is kind of important.
Not only kind of, well, it's kind of important because we're always on a quest, knowing it or not. What's important is knowing, first of all, you're on a quest, and then mindfully experiencing that quest so that you get the maximum benefit from it.
So, hence the mosaic kind of approach to the storytelling.
Yeah.
Snippets of this, snatches of that.
And I think at first I thought, I'm going to have to go back and make this tell a story, step by step. But then as it came along, I thought, no, this is the way it came to me. I think this is the way it's got to go out to the world. And I think that the people that have really gone through it have, I think they felt that that's a strong part of it, the mosaic, as you call it. Like it or not, the human race has become so populous, so powerful, so divided, so angry, so entertained instead of evolving, that we're getting in serious trouble. And I think that just as Putin's now threatening to blow things up, if we're not careful, things will get blown up. And I hope that anything I can do to counter that force, to get a better understanding of what we're doing here on this earth, is what I'm after. When I was in 3rd grade, I moved to Panhandle, Texas. And there they had a band teacher. I've never been in a school that had a band teacher for elementary school. But the band teacher came all the way down to 3rd grade, and he taught tonette, which is a kind of a recorder type little plastic instrument. And I immediately sort of understood and wanted to play and was good at it, and it hooked me on music because it took my brain in a different direction. I could do music. And that was one of the things that got me hooked on music. The other was there was music on the radio a lot. And one of the bands that always played on the radio back in the 40s there was Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys from Amarillo, Texas. And everywhere I lived was right around Amarillo, and never went 30 miles, probably further. But anyway, Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys had chunky acoustic guitars, and they had steel guitar, and they had all kinds of stuff. And so he wasn't as famous then, of course, and so he played out in little places smaller than Crescent, like the Yak Hall or something. And they'd have big drinking parties. Anywhere he went, all the cowboys were there getting drunk and fighting and stuff. And I had a couple uncles that were a bit like that. My dad wasn't, but they were always wanted to go see Bob Wills, but the wives were not anywhere near going to go that. But once, I must have been in about grade 6, my dad and I went with those two uncles out to this little place, kind of a hall, where Bob Wills was playing. And so I didn't go in there, of course, but I walked around, all these people drinking and all this. But inside the hall, boy, people were dancing and having a great time. And I thought, my God, those guys can really play those instruments. I mean, they can really play those things. And it taught me, I think, that, boy, if you're going to play something, you got to work at it, you know. And so then I was lucky. I stayed in Panhandle long enough that I learned to play the clarinet really well. And that moved me up. And then I didn't play anything for many long years, but that was still in there. A little nest egg of musical talent, desire, etc. And it all, again, the 60s hit me the same well as Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. All these guys came out with these great instrument sounds and, you know, amp sounds, and put songs around them, and great. They were starting to get really good at lead guitar early on. Like Bob Wills had guys that played lead guitar, but they didn't play like Jimi Hendrix, because Jimi Hendrix learned from all these other people and practiced through his adolescence and became excellent. And so music has evolved in that way, and I watched it. But I never got an actual guitar until I was in Vietnam, of all things. Excuse me. In Vietnam, when I first went there, I had a job in a battalion where I didn't have much to do because they were sending it home, but I had to inventory it. So I was there a couple of months, and I wrote home to Anna. I said, I'm going crazy, can you send me a guitar? And she did. And I started learning a little bit, but not a lot. But by the time we got to Lethbridge, I really wanted to learn. In the 60s, I'd been going for a time. And so then I was really hooked, and I realized that music was changing me. You know, the evolution of music was causing me to evolve. And so then I got on the bandwagon. I learned to play guitar, and I learned to, you know, write some music, and later learned to record it, and played with people and perform and so forth. But for me, it's been that evolution all along. That's kind of what was dragging and pushing me to wherever I am now.
Maybe.
I've noticed that when people take up music, say they learn to play the guitar and they start learning and become really good at it, some people go the route of learning every famous song and learning to do it perfectly, and go out on the stage and do it just like somebody else did it, who wrote it. A few go the other way and are less interested in that and want to be the one that writes the music, or they are driven maybe to write their music. And so I've been very uninterested in learning cover songs all along the way. And that's a detriment to your growth, because if you learn all those cover songs, learn all those things, then you're building your vocabulary and your repertoire. But I've done it the hard way, learned the other way. So whatever I've done, I've mostly learned totally on my own, and tried not to get too involved in learning how somebody else does things. Thus, I'm not a very good guitar player, but what I do my way. That's something I haven't mentioned before, but it's important, the word poetry. Because again, in elementary school, I don't know where, but along the way, we wrote poetry, and I loved it. I loved anything we wrote, you know, if we wrote essays even, or stories or poetry. I always loved that. And so this is part of my music. I mean, all my songs are, I think, you know, a songwriter, even as long as you write, if it's 10 years or 20 years or 50 years, you probably only really write one or two songs, and all the rest are branches, sub-branches of that. I'm very guilty of that. So your songs might sound a little bit the same after a time, or you might discover another chord and go down that road for a while, or that's what I do a lot of times is sounds or chords or poetry can lead me to a song. Let's talk about Green Machines just to go past it, because I recorded Green Machines on, this is a 4-track cassette multi-track recorder, first one they ever had. And so I learned all kinds of things, but Green Machines is experimental in the sense that I just put it together. I just let it happen. So it goes along and it changes, and the guitar is picking line. You could never plan that. You can't write. That wasn't a song that was written. That was a song that happened. And it happened on tape. It couldn't happen live because I did all the parts, but it happened. And so good songs happen. They're not planned. They just come out. It's just the creative process. When you get the intellect out of the way, I think is what I make of it in a sense, and totally let go. I find that very difficult now because I'm in a rut in a way of writing in a certain way and having all this stuff around me. Then I only had one guitar, the L6S, and a microphone, and that's what I produced. I've not lived in poverty since my childhood, but I understand what it's like. But I've intentionally not sought riches either, because that's really dangerous. I've been more than careful about fame and fortune, especially in music and writing. But I think it's only at this stage of my life that I'm ready to let it go out. I don't think it'll produce fame and fortune, but I was worried early on that it could take me down that path. Even minor, I've seen guys go really bad just with minor fame and fortune. So, I've always had jobs that made me known. Everybody in Crescent would know me when I was, known at the university, worked out in all kinds of things. So I never needed the fame. And I've been thinking about that and working on it, experimenting more, letting the non-intellectual things arise more. So I think I have to play with more instruments, maybe. Break down the structure of the songs a bit more, so let them happen rather than a lot of it. What I've been writing lately, you've heard most of it, I suppose, but it's more poetry. Now, these songs that I'm writing these days are about contemporary stuff. Now, Putin's meddling is only a couple weeks old. I haven't written about that yet. Okay, so I'm still pre that. I think they're going to have a pre-Putin and post-Putin everything, including probably my music or our lives. But right now, I'm just at the end of the pre-Putin stage. Okay, so I'm still questioning what the hell's going on, what went wrong with kind of society division, especially American society, etc. All that's been stirring my mind for quite a while now, and that's going to take a different turn now. So I don't know where my music's going, so this is just where it's come to, but let's see. We got a keyboard, one of the earliest MIDI kind of, well, not even MIDI, it's very MIDI. But I was able to do that helicopter sound on that, and that's part of what led me into making this song. Running that, and I was kind of in a mood anyway, and so that's what caused Green Machines to happen. So I've been immersed just for the past few days in all the Book 1 songs, and even I thought, dang, how did I do all that? It's incredible. How did I do it? And some of them are not bad, you know.
I'll say.
And then I've got another couple hundred after that. For many, many, many long years, I just sit down. I would anyway. When I had time, when I had freedom, it could even be in a restaurant before for work, and it would come to me this chapter might be what I dreamed about last night or whatever. I'd sit down, often make some notes. Later, sit down at the computer and make that into a chapter. Or later, revise it a few times. And that's the way the chapters have grown. The 5 books take Ramon's story through rehabilitation and growth and learning in so many different ways. So what he's learning, I hope we're learning along with him. That would be my ideal. And so he's evolving and growing. And so his growth is on all fronts. Ramon really learns during all of his experiences that health is balance, and that you can only be balanced if you're balanced in all the aspects of humanity. That you have to be emotionally balanced, you have to be physically balanced, you have to be mentally, intellectually balanced, you have to be spiritually balanced. And those 4 or more parts have to be balanced within themselves. Those are the parts of you. And if you achieve balance in all those parts and within those parts with themselves, then you have complete health. Call it what you want, enlightenment or whatever. That's a pretty tall order to achieve all those balances. And especially given that everything is changing all the time. The world, your body, your growth, your deterioration, whatever's happening. And so it's like surfing. You know, you're always having to, well, even although you almost achieve balance, it's very difficult to maintain it. And so Ramon shows us over and over, perhaps how to do it, how he did it, perhaps how we could do it. He does that through understanding, and he does it through getting a teacher that doesn't exist in the physical world, but exists in his dream world. And so literally he's got a teacher that shows him many things that then prove to work for him. It might not work for everybody, but it gives him an understanding of how to achieve balance. And that's part of what this story is about. And what I would like it to do is help the world and everybody achieve balance or have a way of working toward it. Many individuals throughout history have struggled with this, and this is just my way of struggling with it and putting it out there. And it's not, for me and for Ramon, it's a teaching, but it's a teaching that's coming from internal, not from somebody saying, here's the truth, but from in here saying, I think we discovered something here that might work for us. I'm probably the worst person to try to break it down in a way, but yeah, my clinical practice helped. University teaching helped. Being a student for so many years and being focused, having to be focused for so many years is good training for anything. That helped. So sure, and all you talk about scientific training and so forth. That's all a part of that bundle. That was a part of my life, and then found its way into this story. Certainly, I guess psychological thinking is in there all over the place in various forms. I try not to talk about, I'm not bringing anybody's particular theories or beliefs or anything into this story except my own, perhaps. Now, there's another element, and that's the role of Jason, my son in all this. Because when I started recording, he wasn't really quite into music, but he was learning at school, learning the drums and so forth. So his inspiration for music came almost directly from me and everything he was hearing, but I mean, his inspiration to play music. We always fed that, so he had it. But he was also a part, and you can see that he's in a part of every darn one of these songs, some way or the other. He produced them, recorded them, played in them, something. So he's a total participant in this whole thing. It couldn't have happened the way it happened without him. And so I was the smart one early on, and now it's totally reversed. He's the smart one. He knows all the techie stuff. He's writing the best songs. He's way ahead of me musically and so forth. But it's been that, he's been a part of that whole energy that made me, produce this project.
And they still snake by in my dreams, and probably their dreams too. If they can still dream like I do, about when we flew in the sky